College of Architecture. As per the tradition of the Institute, we would like to begin our event by joining hands and chanting Om 3 times to invoke for the blessings of the divine. Om.
Architect Pallavi.
Good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon, respected dignitaries, all the speakers of the day, students, one of the important stakeholders here, all the other guests. On behalf of VESCOA, I am very happy and delighted to invite you for this event, which is a collaboration where ISOLA and IUDI are together on a platform and VESCO hosting it with an ideology that collaboration is the future and all the professionals, government bodies and institutions, three of them come together, look for the solutions for the city we are there, and we try to help the society, help the people. This is what VESCO believes in. This is what we want to promote. This is what we want to inspire and motivate our students who are the future professionals. And this is one of the platform most of the students are interacting with a professional, such eminent professional body. And I really thank the IUDI for this, and I really thank ISOLA for this. I also thank Professor Harshad Bhatia and Samir for taking this initiative, and Urmila Madam for letting this happen. It's because they have taken that lead, and I want every student to take back something out of this event, that whenever you are attending, you take this opportunity to look forward for such events happening and get back home with some inspiration. That's the day you have made for it. We also are running our consultancy cell. We call it VESCO RDCC Research and Design Cell. And we invite openly all professionals, academicians, students to come forward and participate through the cell towards this vision of Mumbai Dialogues and come up with solution where we can propose certain things to the government, to the society, for the society. Finally, what we are doing is for the society, for the people. And as architects who are, if we don't do that initiative, we don't come ahead and we don't look for this vision, who else should? So let us put our expertise and find these solutions. And here students plays a very big role. All the fifth years attending, third years who are attending. This should become a game life changer for you. This should become an inspiration for you to move ahead on a professional level also. So thank you once again, and hope we have a very great interaction here. Thank you.
मैं कॉलर दूँ कहाँ
ते पकड़ायला लागणार ना. So I hope I'm heard clearly by everybody. And thank you, Uttara. It's really heartwarming to see this large crowd here on a warm Saturday afternoon. And all very eager for this first episode of collaboration. So as the current serving president of the Indian Society of Landscape Architects, ISOLA, and also as the HOD of MArch Landscape in this college, VESCO, I stake a claim to both legacies. So it was just about a month and a half ago that IUDI reached out to ISOLA to look at common ground. And here we are, thanks to being powered by VESCO, already presenting the first of the 6 Mumbai dialogues envisioned by the respective Mumbai chapters of the bodies. So with its newly begun Master of Architecture in Urban Design and Landscape Architecture programs and an integrated approach towards developing sustainable humane habitat, VESCO, the Vivekananda Education Society's College of Architecture, was a natural series. And both ISOLA and IUDI look at this happy coincidence as being meant to be. So I would like to very briefly tell you about ISOLA. Founded in May 2003 and led by 2 stalwarts of the profession of landscape architecture, Professor Prabhakar Bhagwat of Ahmedabad and Professor Mohammad Shahir of Delhi, who were its president and vice president respectively. The Indian Society of Landscape Architects, with its headquarters in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, is a professional body of Indian landscape architects registered under the Indian Societies Act and the Bombay Public Trust Act. It's also a member of the International Federation of Landscape Architects, IFLA, and in November 2025, ISOLA is hosting the IFLA APR Regional Congress here in Mumbai. We look forward to meeting all of you there as well. We have moved beyond the age of information and are now in the era of collaboration, facilitated by technology-driven world, and often forget in our quest for speed and efficiency to look at what we are doing to the city, which we all live in together. So the intent of this series is just that, to drive our thoughts to engage with our city together. So all 3 of your hosts today, IUDI, ISOLA, and VESCO, have firmly set their sights on collaborating and invite each and every one of you on this journey with us. I wish all of you here today an enjoyable and thought-provoking evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your thoughts on Mumbai Dialogues. It's an encouraging step towards collaborating and engaging with multidisciplinary perspectives. I'm sure these dialogues will bring together many ideas and processes to the table during this session and many more to come. The first speaker for the day is architect Rahul Kulkarni. He is an associate principal at Insight International and holds an experience of more than 25 years in master planning, urban design, and conceptual architectural design. He typically incorporates urban design principles along with public realm and landscape design strategies to create dynamic and sustainable design solutions backed with a strong concept narrative. His recent work includes design of iconic mixed-use developments across Middle East and Asia at various scales, resulting in innovative and context-sensitive urban environments. Architect Rahul is passionate about designing inclusive, sustainable, and contextual places for people, along with social infrastructure that fosters authentic live, work, and play environments. Let us give a big welcome to architect Rahul Kulkarni.
Thank you. Actually, I think we need to move this podium a little bit. See the screen. This is good, I think. Hello? Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah. Which one? No. Pointer. Which one should I use? This one? Hello? Yeah, much better. You could turn off these lights, actually. Might be easier. Okay, let's get started. Thank you so much, IUDI and ISOLA, and of course, VESCO for hosting this event. I'm Rahul Kulkarni. I just wanted to give a quick intro about myself. Sorry, it's not moving. Oh, here we go. So I'm trained as an architect. I've been practicing as an urban designer, but I've also done a stint in landscape architecture. This event is particularly close to my heart because I bring all of that together. I don't like architecture as much, just yet. But anything other than architecture, I think everything that we do, we live and breathe in. You know, it's all made in design and landscape design. Different types of open spaces. You know, what is the hierarchy that we normally see in our cities? Oh, maybe that's what. Okay. Yeah. So let's start with city parks, right? Parks within a city, they start to define the city. Then we come down to district parks. Then we come down to a community park, let's say something like Hiranandani Gardens, for example, right? Or if we go even closer, let's say a pocket park that's formed by, within a community, within a cluster. And then finally, streetscape, shared surfaces, public realm, all of that contribute towards the open spaces and places where people interact. It's the places which help bring communities together. So I wanted to just take a moment to sort of go through, what are the great examples of, oopsie, sorry. I don't know why it's taking forever. Okay. So some of the famous examples, of course, is Central Park in New York or Hyde Park in London, followed by, some other example, if this thing just works. Sorry. And then some of the newer examples, such as Gardens by the Bay in Singapore or the Millennium Park in Chicago. These are all interactive places where people go there, and this has become the big Instagram sensation, right? Everybody wants to go there and take a picture. So, what do parks, how do they contribute to bringing people together, bringing communities together? That's very important. The other one I want to talk about is the High Line in New York, which was actually an adaptive reuse typology. This was an abandoned railroad for a number of years, and then it suddenly, it was turned into a beautiful linear park that goes around sort of the Upper West Side of New York City. And because of this park, now suddenly all of the real estate value around this park has become, it has completely skyrocketed. And it's such an amazing example of an adaptive reuse. And then suddenly everybody wants to be on the park. Everybody wants to connect with the park. So a park really, or an open space for this matter, how it really starts to bring value. It starts to bring meaningful, it starts to become an identity for the project itself. So, some of the design strategies, before we get into that, I wanted to talk about, what are the examples, what are the benefits of parks and recreational open spaces. And I call this green equity, right? Because it's really an equity. It's really something that we should all be focused on, not just the environmental part, but also the social aspects of it, the cultural aspects of it, intellectual, emotional, physical, economical. All of these different aspects become sort of, a community that brings everything together and becomes the green equity for our cities. Sorry, guys. I don't know. Yeah. Why don't you just do that? That might be easier. So, when we start talking about urban design and landscape together, we start, and, this is I'm talking about when we start looking at a project, right? We come up with some very high-level strategies to create a unique identity for the project, right? How do you build a sense of community? How do you look at aspects such as access, circulation, and of course the green infrastructure? If you can go to the next, please. And in addition to that, how do you create gateways and arrival experience? How do you ensure walkability and safety throughout your community? How do you ensure there is adequate amenities, community facilities? And then finally, it's about designing an experience. Everything outside of architecture, this is about the experience of being in a city, or whether it's a community or a neighborhood, you name it. So it's all about sort of creating that together. So what I'm trying to get at is the aspects of urban design and landscape design that sort of coexist together to create a community. So let's take an example of what these two different fields lend themselves towards creating a community. And I'll go to the project that's in the background in just a minute. But the urban design side of things, we are shaping the built environment. We're making sure that the buildings and the open spaces are coming together to really create an interesting space. And we're placemaking. Placemaking, in other words, basically creating these accidental spaces and park spaces which actually bring everything together. Whereas for the landscape design side of things, we are looking at designing of the public realm, shaping the natural and the man-made, and of course creating sustainable development within that. So basically a combination of these two is where we start to start shaping our built environment. So taking this, this is one of the projects that I recently worked on in the Middle East. It's a master plan for a mixed-use development, which has got residential, it's got commercial, it's got different varying scales of densities within an urban setting, and there was a big park in the middle of it. So, oops, I think it went too fast. So the idea was to look at it from an urban design standpoint, as well as bring in the landscape design aspects of it. Can you go back, please? Yeah, go one more. Okay, just go one by one. Thank you. I'll just tell you like this. Okay, so if you can go to the next. Perfect. And then one more. Yeah, so we'll talk about, just hold off there. So, how do you orient the buildings towards the park to create more value, right? The moment you start putting building facades onto the park, those units are immediately going to start getting increased and getting more value out of it. We ensure that we keep a porous and interconnected development so that everybody can go in and out without having any cul-de-sacs. And then, of course, the park that becomes a container for all your community facilities. So all your parks, your recreational spaces, experiential spaces, everything starts to become, come into the park itself. And then the park itself acts as a buffer. It acts as a buffer between the commercial and the residential. So it's got so many different features that are going on. And we haven't even started talking about the landscape design yet. So of course, when it comes to the landscape design, that's when you start to program the spaces, and then integrate the built and the natural environment, create these diversity of activities so that the park doesn't become just a park with nothing but a green lawn. But you start to program it, and then you start to integrate the streetscape that then starts to complement the overall design. So just some ideas about how the urban design and the landscape design, kind of comes together, and then keep going. So of course, again, going back to the hierarchy of parks, this is, we were talking about city parks just a minute ago, but in this case, that would become a district park, and then there's an opportunity to create different parks such as the pocket park, plazas, shared surfaces, and then you have this amazing active public realm that brings everybody together. That's good. So, I just wanted to show a few case studies before we jump into the next topic, which was, this is a particular project. This is in Abu Dhabi. It's called Dream Hills. You can go to the next. So this was a master plan that I worked on, and this has got a really interesting story. This is in the middle of the desert, Abu Dhabi, and it is also on the coast. But we wanted to bring this green luxury, and what the idea was to create these green ribbons that become the container for community facilities. So, and it's all integrated. There's never a time when you have to get into your car and go to the park. So if you want to go to your neighbor, you just walk into the park, take your bike, and then go straight to your neighbor. So the idea was to kind of create these really interesting loops of green ribbons that connect the entire community and the neighborhood. Keep going, please. Yep, just some visuals of that. Keep going. The other one is Dubai Hills State Park, which is also in Dubai, and this has got a huge park, and this is something like the district park that I just mentioned, and it has a variety of experiences. There's a skate park and a recreational facility and some experiential spaces that are very beautifully sort of woven together. And the buildings almost become the backdrop, right? It's all about the park. The place is known by the park. It's not about the buildings themselves. So that's how the building, the park is important. This is one more I'll show you before we move on, and this is the Yas Park in Abu Dhabi. We did a project, and this was just a very small pocket park, but a very interesting story behind that was, our designers came up and came with this design of the park itself, and there was nothing wrong with it. It had the play areas, it had the right amount of trees, all of that was great. But then we had a horticultural environmental expert that came in, and we studied the flora and the fauna and the habitat of the place, and how the park can actually contribute to and increase the ecological equity. And then what we did was we actually had this entire layer of an ecological and horticultural aspects, and that went into the next. Yeah, so if you just tap once, you see how the design immediately changed, and we created these nooks and corners, which actually ended up saving space, but also it made the project much more interesting and engaging. So we'll just keep going through some other examples of linear parks and pocket parks and children's play areas. I think we've touched upon these, so we can just go very, very quickly. You just keep tapping. So I already spoke about the environmental benefit. This goes a little bit more into detail about urban heat island effect and carbon sequestration, strengthening the sense of place, how the parks start to become a place to celebrate, really. It becomes a place for everybody to come together. And then, of course, there are economical benefits. I mentioned about how these parks actually increase the value of the place that they are in, and how it becomes a revenue generator as well. So that brings me to Central Park, which is in Navi Mumbai. Hopefully I haven't gone over my time. But I just wanted to introduce this chapter and this topic, and of course give it to Sir. This is of course one of the greatest examples of a city park in Kharghar in Navi Mumbai. You can just go. I don't have a lot of slides, and I'll let you just a couple of slides to talk about what the park is about and how big it is. You can just keep tapping. So yes, of course, it's a city park. It's located in sectors 23, 24, 25 in Kharghar, and some of the key features that you can see here. And I'm not going to talk about this. I'll let Sir do it. But that's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul sir, for summing your thoughts on the theme for the day, open spaces within the city and how they matter to us. Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, is that clear? Yeah. Okay, thank you sir for summing up the thoughts on open spaces within the city, and that is sort of a string which ties all the talks today for the Mumbai Dialogues. And very rightly said, it comes under both the realm of landscape architects and urban designers who coexist and make these spaces within the city. Very nicely termed by Sir as shared surfaces. I really like that term. And the various benefits of these open spaces. Not only do they bring communities together, but the people start identifying with these open spaces. So our next speaker is going to talk about an open space within Navi Mumbai where people have started identifying with that space. We have here architect Ramesh Dangle, and he shall be speaking about Central Park at Kharghar, Navi Mumbai. Architect Ramesh Dangle is the chairperson of IUDI Mumbai chapter. He postgraduated from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi in 1988, and after his postgraduation, he worked with architect K.T. Ravindran for a couple of years and then joined as a planner in CIDCO. After dedicating over 32 years of public service, he retired as the chief architect and planner from CIDCO. In the process, he has honed invaluable and practical experience across a diverse array of projects, including city and regional scale, with unique perspective from the other side of the table. He is currently running his own consultancy in Navi Mumbai and actively engaged with academic activities and institutions sharing knowledge and experience with the next generations of the student. We extend a warm welcome to you, sir. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
I would like to have a mouse. Can you get me a mouse?
If you feel comfortable, you can have a walk also. You can have a walk at top or on both the sides, if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, sure. No, it's okay. It's okay. The people cannot see from that side.
That is good. That's okay. Mouse. Rather than pointer, mouse would be
Better.
the mouse can be seen on both the screens.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice to see a lot of students. So I will also focus few things on the students. And as already mentioned in the introduction, I got an opportunity to do urban design when the urban design was a relatively new stream, and I was working with KT. I had extremely wonderful and learning experience in my stay at Delhi, because urban design was a great discipline to learn, and after that working with KT was awesome experience. Whatever little I have learned is because of that person. I consider him as guru, not only teacher or something, and he has a big influence on my thinking, and that is how whatever I am today, a large portion belongs to him. After working with KT, I joined CIDCO. CIDCO is as you all know, it's a development corporation. The difference between any municipal corporation and CIDCO is municipal corporation is restricted to that area, and basically it does operation and maintenance, whereas CIDCO, it creates cities and then it hands over to the respective corporation for maintenance. And by mistake I was absorbed in CIDCO, because the department says planning department and you should have ITPI recognition and all that. But somehow for me it was, I don't know how it happened, but I was absorbed in CIDCO. I am the only architect urban designer who was in CIDCO. I tried to open that channel for urban designers, but I could not. But anyway, I will be sharing the experience, and whatever I have seen is from the other side of the table. So you must be thinking that how the things are done and all that. So few things will be answered in my presentation. I must thank my institute, SPA. Why it is not operating? As I said, working with KT was a great experience. We all know the kind of recognition he has, and I worked on 3 projects, and one of them was Lakshadweep University. And this project taught me a lot, because a place like Lakshadweep, where the ecology is so fragile, you have to think about every smallest possible material that you want to use there. You cannot use concrete because the potable water is very less. So concrete out of question. Wood you cannot use because there are very small, very few trees and you can't cut them. So the material itself took a lot of time to decide, and it was really great experience to learn what material we should use it there. And you need certain spans because there are classrooms and all that. You can't have smaller spans. So finally it was decided that we will do prefab concrete slabs which will be transported from Cochin to Lakshadweep. And yet having that as a constraint which actually ties down your creativity, KT was able to generate such kind of build form which could gel with the existing typology there, and also goes below the canopy of the trees. Nothing stands out. And while doing this project, I learned how nature is so important and how we should care for that. And it has paved a way. Why I joined SIDCO is one of the most famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi, that be the change that you want to see in the society. I wanted to see the society corruption free and serving the people. So that was one reason. Second reason was KT's advice. When we did Ujjain project, the government officials were very funny with us, all students. They were not giving the data, and they used to think, अरे तुमको DP दिया तो सब पूरा काम ही हो गया ना, फिर तुम क्या करोगे? I mean, they did not understand that urban design starts where the planning ends. So it was very difficult for me, and I was very irritated, and I told KT, why these people behave like this? And KT said, why don't you join the government and show the difference? So that was another reason. And third is the scale of design. After doing urban design, I didn't want to do interiors and architecture. I wanted to do something at a large scale. And at that time, SIDCO was doing Navi Mumbai, so I thought it will be the right place for me. As we know, the expanse of Navi Mumbai is almost 3/4 of Mumbai. It is defined by 2 natural elements. One is Sahyadri Hills and one is Thane Creek. So when I had joined, almost many nodes, which we call it neighborhood or townships, were already developed. And those were designed in-house by the then planners with typical grid and pattern and all those things. So in order to bring modern concepts and variety, it was decided that we should get new people, the professional consultants, for 3 nodes which were very large: Dronagiri, Kharghar and Ulve. So Dronagiri, Kanvinde sir was appointed to design the township. For Kharghar, Dr. B.V. Doshi was appointed, and for Ulve, Charles Correa was appointed. So I really thank God for making a perfect place for me at perfect time, when I could interact with all the 3 people and I could understand how they think. Because it is not the work, it is the approach, it is the philosophy with which they approach the work. And that's why they are so different, and that's why they are great. And being on the other side of the table, as a client, I could ask any foolish question I feel like and get myself clarified. So that advantage was because of CIDCO. So it was a great learning. They are called ABC of modern architecture of India, and this day got a chance to work with them and learn few things. So these are all 14 independent nodes, we call it, as a township. So these townships were designed with planning standards. We all know what is planning standards. For so many population, you have schools, preliminary schools, this, that. So colleges, everything was designed. Similarly, open spaces, trot lots, neighborhood parks, and all those things. So those were self-sufficient. But now, when the city grows, the boundaries between these nodes start vanishing. You never know which node is ending where and the other is starting there. So when it happens, the city starts emerging. So now at a larger city level, we have to think what should be the open spaces, social facilities, and public utilities needed. So I was given the task of designing these master plans for greens for Navi Mumbai. At that time, if you know government, how government offices work, they work in silos, vertical silos. You are not even expected to look what is happening in that silo, you know. So, and I was handling only Dronagiri and this thing. So I was, then I had to get all the nodal plans reduced to the scale and all that, because that was the time of no computers, and make it a master plan. And this master plan was done with many these things, but we will focus only these three things: Navi Mumbai Nature Park, Valley Park, and Central Park. The rehabilitation of quarries, all aspects we covered in that master plan itself. Similarly, master plan for city level facilities, because some facilities you need at city level, they are not required at the neighborhood level or township level. Also, CIDCO has this very nice thing that we give particular plantation to a particular road and name that road accordingly. There are no political names, there are no other names to these things like Palm Marg and Amra Marg and all that. So I got a chance to explain all this to the then Chief Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde, and the first part we decided to tackle was Navi Mumbai Nature Park, which is almost 2,000 hectares. It's a kind of hill and hill slope, and on either side you have residential areas. So, and in CIDCO there is no landscape architecture or something like that. There is only horticulture. So we decided to appoint BNHS to carry out the biodiversity survey first. And the BNHS submitted the report, showed which are the zones where some kind of intervention is possible, and there are some areas where nothing should be done. And the interventions also were of a very smaller scale, just a road and some viewpoints. I think I will have to rush. And these were the 5 parks that we identified in the Navi Mumbai Nature Park. The first is Hill Park. The hill was made accessible by the road. The viewpoints were designed, and pedestrian trails were developed with the help of Forest Department, because Forest Department has a say on these things because it's a forest land, and tree plantation also was done by forest. So if we know that this is Sion Panvel Expressway, and on left side is Kharghar Road, on Belapur Road, right side is Kharghar Road, and there is a road which is meandering like this, and which goes to the hilltop. I am sorry, I am not able to operate on this. So This is the entry, and I was so happy that a leopard was seen there. I mean, it is their area we are encroaching upon, so it was closed for a few days. It's some of the photographs clicked by me when I go for morning walk, and I see many people using that. So you create something, it is useful for the public, and this is the view from the higher level. There is no major intervention as such, only plantation and these things. Second is Valley Park. This is another site. I don't know. Pointer. So this is the area that was Hill Park, and this fag end of the development, we have another road which goes to the MBR, that is water tank. So we decided to, this is the end of the development, and this road goes beyond. So it's in valley, so we called it Valley Park. And we just had kind of a booklet which gives information on what to do, what not to do. It was opened on World Environment Day. And there was a sculpture which was placed, just a tree sculpture at the one bend of the road. And we, with BNHS, worked out what should be done, what should not be done. And we also formed an association of the people, residents, who will monitor what is happening, because these things we learned from Mumbai, most of the things we learned from Mumbai, that it should not get encroached. So those people will keep eyes on this kind of thing. And this is the information display there. These are some of the photographs. Now I am coming to Central Park. Unlike these parks which were nestled in the park, in the already developed, already green hill slopes, this was a larger intervention. And then why Central Park? Because we call it city of 21st century, and we did not have that kind of a city scale park. So we decided to have a city scale park. And if we see with respect to MMR, Navi Mumbai is at the center. In Navi Mumbai, Kharghar township is at center, and within Kharghar, the central area, which is called sector 23, 24 and 25, are at the center. So we decided to call it Central Park because it is central from all the sides. So if we see the cross section of Navi Mumbai, you have water and hills on one side, and we have development in between. The width of the development keeps on reducing or enlarging. That's not in our hands because it is defined by the natural features on either side. So when this width is larger, you cannot see either of the elements, that is water or hills. So we decided to have a connection, green to blue corridor, deliberate corridor, which will have golf course at the foothills and the Central Park, which will extend up to the waters. So we tried to establish this corridor. This was the original master plan designed by Dr. B.V. Doshi. We can see the central green flowing through and meeting the water, the river. But this was the original plan. This is the greens. And now in the new proposal, the greens is 3 or 4 times. And you can imagine the objections by economics, administration, everybody, because suddenly you are making so much of area non-sellable. And they were just not approving it. Then we had to prove that if you do this park, the adjoining area, the escalation of that adjoining area will be so much that it will offset the cost of the development, which happened also. there was a plot which was sold very close to this place, which has faced the highest revenue to SIDCO. So I am just now running fast because every point will be too much. How much area for the park? So we had to do the study. City, I have not seen any park abroad. So we had to do study on computer. Then who will decide the sellable? I mean, people, the planners typical approach that roadside, we will have strip, and that will be our sellable area, and the park will be in between. I said nothing doing. Let the consultant decide the park and non-park area. Then who will find the right consultant? We will call for global competition, and the criteria, and 54 entries were received responding to our RFP. 5 were shortlisted. Then we decided to call experts in the field, landscape, urban design and planning. Ravindra Bhan was the great landscape architect who also taught me. K.T. Ravindran and Suresh Pendarkar sir. And from SIDCO, we have to have 2 as per COA guidelines. So my MD and the then chief planner were the jury. But how jury will come to know which site and where is it and context? So we made a presentation to the jury first. Then we took them to the site and showed the site. The jury really loved the site, and then they selected the design of Madhav Consultants. I am really happy that Indian and particularly Mumbai person won the competition, because there were foreign consultants as well. So beating them, and this is Central Park design. It flows with the existing water, channel. And this is sector 23, this is sector 24, and this is 25. And these are the sellable areas. It's strung along the existing water flow. And this was the design. Only fast part is implemented. So the foundation laying ceremony also happened at the hands of Honorable CM. We had the whole concept is on Indian context, so Indian reflection of Indian culture. So we used to go to this thing to see this. This is the implemented part. You can see on the Google image also. So these are the developments that have already happened. These are the actual photographs. This logo also is designed by us. This is the amphitheater where Sonu Nigam program happened, 10,000 people. Unfortunately, I don't have photographs of that. And this first phase was inaugurated again by the then CM. Then there was an inadvertent mistake that happened in the process. The designer of the township was Dr. B.V. Doshi, and I never consulted him before making such kind of a great intervention, and I happened to meet him recently in 2019. So while discussing with him, I told that this has happened and I am really sorry for that. So he did not say a word, he was just listening. But anyway, even if he would have said something, I wouldn't have mind. But he was very happy. Then I was shocked. Then I asked him why. He said, the design has to be flexible and dynamic. You just draw the line and it remains this thing, it doesn't happen. And it has changed for good. He presented his book with a great motivating appreciation that congratulations for contributing to urban landscape. With this kind of remarks kept me motivating. Then after implementation, the aftermath. There was a proposal, this part is implemented and the next part was to be implemented. Then suddenly there was a proposal to put a sports stadium there. Then I opposed. Then they said, I mean, it is very difficult and you have to be really smart to deal these people who come with such kind of proposal. They said, well, sports is also green. Then I said, you are right, it is green, but let us see what happens. To make this green work, you need so much of concrete around. Then only that green can work for parking and all those things. So this is the connection, green-blue connection that we are deliberatingly trying to establish, and you are just going to put a lump of concrete in the face of it. So I said, I am sorry, I cannot allow this. Then there was another proposal. The proposal was to have amusement park and water park. Then they said, now at least it's a park, huh? Now you can't object. I said, of course I have objection. Then he said, what kind of person you are? You are objecting to anything and everything that is being proposed. I said, sir, please try to understand. This park is city park where a person can go free of charge. In amusement park and water park, it is, you have to pay, then only you can enter. And this is not for some exclusive people. And the hidden thing is to make this entire thing in a gated community. Grab the land and make it a gated community. So I oppose for that, and there is a present for me that there is a PIL against me, accusing me lot of things and all nonsense, but I am not worried. Then there was one more proposal, to have a cultural film something. It came from Delhi. So you can, museum of films. And the person was saying, Shah Rukh can give this, and this can give that, and I can do that, and I can do this. And MD said that we will have to give that. I said, sorry sir, I can't. Then the MD said, nothing doing, I have decided to give 25, sector 25, the last part to him. If somebody in government, if somebody overrules you, your boss, you can't do anything. So I was overruled. But God was with me, this never materialized. So, and now in the process that CRZ came. CRZ put everything in dustbin. So, this is the aftermath. Now, the biggest question is why the rest of the park is not getting developed. There was a government land, and suddenly one day it was allotted to someone, and that someone allotted to some builder, and we just did not know how it can happen, because once CIDCO is established as NTDA, that is Newtown Development Authority, all lands are supposed to be vested with the Newtown Development Authority. And how suddenly this thing can crop up? But such thing can happen, such big surprises can happen. And this, because of this, now nothing is happening. I feel sorry, tried to do few things but did not happen, and now I am retired for 3 years. Thank you. Thanks for your patient listening. Thank you. Particularly to the students, I had a very offbeat, exciting and roller coaster journey. And many times I had to I was transferred to Aurangabad twice, unceremoniously, of course, because I was not listening. But at the end of the day, if you think whether you have done something for the people, I think the answer should be yes. So, thank you. I'm sorry if I have overshot the time.
Thank you, Architect Ramesh Dangle, sir. It was very insightful to know how open spaces are conceptualized at such a huge scale in our cities. And thank you for sharing your experience working at SIDCO. And I'm sure our students are also inspired. Now I would like to introduce our next speaker for the day, Architect Smita Gupta. Architect Smita Gupta is a landscape architect known for her innovative and practical designs. She has graduated from Government College of Architecture, Lucknow in 1990 and done her master's in landscape architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi in 1994. Being the principal landscape architect at Prakriti Prakalp, she hails over 25 years of experience in the field. Architect Smita has transformed numerous public and private projects into vibrant, functional and aesthetically pleasing environments. Her work is characterized by a deep understanding of visual and functional principles and a commitment to creating spaces that harmonize with nature. She has completed several institutional and public projects spreading pan-India. Some of her notable projects include the landscape of IIT Palakkad, Kerala, NIFT Shillong, Anand Vihar and Anand Visava Bhakt Nivas Complex at Shegaon, Maharashtra, Tourism Development Center at Patratu Dham, Jharkhand, Homi Bhabha Cancer Hospital and Research Center, Mohali. In addition to her design work, Architect Smita is associated with teaching landscape architecture at graduate and postgraduate levels at various architecture schools. She has spoken at many conferences and contributes to industry publications, sharing her knowledge and promoting responsible design. We welcome Architect Smita to take the dais.
Working. Namaskar everyone. I hope my voice reaches all of you. Today I'm going to put up two of my works as a SIDCO initiative to develop green spaces within the node of Kharghar. So these works are pretty old, very at the start of the Kharghar node, a little bit of development was there. And I happened to be, Dangle sir happened to be the part of the SIDCO side when these works were done. So, next slide please. The first one is the Adya Krantivir Vasudev Balwant Fatke Udyan, which is in Sector 12, Kharghar. That time when the project was, this project is something around 6 acres of land with a very flat land. This is not working. It has no trees, development was very scarce, very scattered development. You can't derive the context when it was done. So it was executed in 2004 and 5, but we started the design somewhere in 2001 and or 2. And it was under the design and build contract. So the project was awarded to a contractor and he approached us for the design. So my contribution was only till design and rest of the execution part was through the contracting thing. There was no brief which was discussed through the client. The client was SIDCO. And lots of constraints like the materiality, the DSR, the cost, all these were the constraints for us, which holds the selection of the material, the cost of the project and all. Next please. And go back. Just to understand the context, it was within the, the level is the mid-level or the neighborhood level. 6 acres is the site size and it is surrounded by most of the time residential school at one side and one major road, the Shilp Chowk road today. That time Shilp Chowk was not there. Nothing was there. Shilp Chowk came later on. So earlier when this was done, this area was identified by this park. Later on when Shilp Chowk came, that became the landmark and park was like part of it. Next please. This is what at the end there is some pointer or something or mouse. Mouse. Okay, I can use a mouse.
This pointer will show you on this.
हाँ, इसको थोड़ा पास में ले आइए. And which button? This? Okay. I think cursor is visible there. So, important was to understand the context and derive a brief for ourselves. So, since it was the residential node, it was very important that that it caters to all age groups, because it is a residential node, and also it gives the variety of spaces as a public park to different people, different age groups, so that the interest of the people remains towards using it and maintaining it, and associate themselves to the park. Then bring people closer to nature. Like in Mumbai, it was understood that the people for the decongestions are moving towards Navi Mumbai. So Mumbai gives hardly any opportunities to Mumbaikars to attach to the greens. So here was the full opportunity to explore, to give them association to the nature, and the space has to be designed which is for that time and the future time, which is adaptable, which is future ready also. So here you can see little bit explanation I'll give on the design. The entry here, which was the main entry, and there was a side entry for exit, emergency exits. We had the major lawn area. Since there was the school, so we had the children's play area a little away from the school. Then the water feature was there just for the visual aspect. People connect to such interesting features over there. There was sculpture proposed here, which later on shifted somewhere else. Lots of greens of different types and sizes and nature. Sir, thoda sa back jayenge. So the whole the 2 number, which is the community lawn, was the community space, and different pockets for different kind of events which can have, like skating rink, amphitheater, children's play area, and the group seatings and all. Go next. This is how it looked from my lens when it was getting, you can notice no trees, nothing. It was very, very barren kind of vacant land kind of thing. So it got developed. Now this was, sir, कुछ fast हो रहा है क्या? मैं गलत कर रही हूँ कुछ? थोड़ा, अच्छा sorry. No, you manage the thing. So this is how it is. It turned out to be in 2018 as a green abode to the entire neighborhood. Next, further details of zone plans of that. Next, this is from my lens. I visited the site in some 2007. So the different small pockets which I wanted to introduce. These are the images of that. Next. These are the images taken up by the people. Now my intention here, these are from all the sources of the internet, how people look at the designs, what they want to associate with, and how do they take it. And the social media has helped us a lot to understand this. So these are how people click, what they click. Few of the, some 2,500 images I have selected few and put up like that. Next. These are how people associate. This was somewhere close to pandemic. So you can't see people in these areas. Next. And people also, like since the high-rise residentials were there, people, I found it very interesting that few people were documenting with the different seasons. Varsha Ritu, Grishma, and people were mentioning that in the thing. So they were even feeling the seasonal changes which are happening to their open spaces, and they were getting associated to. Next, like how people use it. Again, when we are designing a brief, we have certain perception how the spaces would be used. But there are many more people how use it, like the open spaces were used for the gathering, for picnicking, for many such uses. Next. Like the schools were taking up this place. There were two schools. There is APJ school and one more school. So they are taking up their place for their younger children things. Recently, next, amphitheater has been used for variety of uses, like some night program, musical recitals and things like that. Though this park is open only for 5 to 9 in the morning and 5 to 9 in the evening, still it gives a variety of uses to the people. Next. People also record why these are not maintained, what is happening to their own space, their park. So few of the images where it says it is not being maintained, remark says request to the agencies to take care of the places. Idea is to understand that people are getting associated to the public spaces which are being given to them. Next. Now this is what people say about it. So one of the site gave me this opportunity. So some of them are saying, because what I understood from this is people appreciate what they don't have and you give them. So that is what they like and adhere to. So lots of comments are there like this. I'm very fast in doing this because there is one more project which I have to. So this is what was there. Next. Now let's come to another project. Please change the slide. This is also of the same scale, a little smaller, but the context is different. This is Shahid Tushar Shamrao Chavan Udyan. Now these namings and all were done later when the opening of the project has. Earlier it was Sector 11 Garden Panvel and something. Sir was very much part of this. So here, the context was a low-rise residential and it was not on the main road or something where it was very much inside the pocket, and it was earlier developed by either SIDCO or locally, which has lots of peripheral and trees within the line, making this garden of 4 parts. So that was the constraint for us because those were mature trees and we would not like to cut them off. So we had to integrate those things. So that became a part of our whole design brief. So it has, now the ownership was again SIDCO. It was a tender contract. Now it was difference. The tender contract meaning we were the design consultant for them, and through our whole process, a contractor to execute the work was appointed. That was the difference. Now here we had a bigger say, bigger work to do. Earlier project, it was the design thing. Here this was design, execution, strategies and drawings and everything. Okay. But the constraints of cost and DSR were there also because it is a public project. Next. Here you can see these were the trees which were existing, peripheral trees were existing, large trees in intermediate levels, these were in, few of the trees were 35 years old, 40 years old. So our design brief was such that we have to integrate these trees into our design. Second, again, it has to cater to all user groups. Space, same thing. Our idea of design a public space remains same. It should have versatile usability. No, all kind of people should be able to use it and bring people closer to nature. Because in my academic association, I find that people are getting away from nature. The students, the young generation, they are getting away from nature. If through practical projects we bring them closer to nature, it will really help them in their well-being. So it has also there was a temple over here, small temple, which by any means we were not able to touch. There were ESS for the whole colony over here. And these were having 4 entry exits which we had to retain because people started coming. Here, little bit of public participation was there. When we visited the site, people come to us, हमको ये चाहिए, हमें ये नहीं चाहिए, हमारा गेट नहीं बंद होना चाहिए, हमको यहाँ से भी access मिलना चाहिए. So many things people were telling us. So we came to a design where we shifted the entry little bit, the angular entry, so that our things are not seen at one go. Then when you reach here, the whole thing, the central, the kind of avenue, the central plaza, I call it a plaza, I don't know whether it's the right term or not. And the divided pockets which were already there, one were assigned to the children's play area, skating rink and associated areas. The waiting, it was suggested by the people, हमारे बच्चों को आया लेके जाती हैं या मेरी उनकी grandmother, तो please design some waiting areas for them. So this came into the picture. Then the other side was the leisure park, where the strolling, garden activities, all those things happened. And the third, the larger category was the community space, where any kind of community activity could take place, which included the amphitheater and this central plaza seating and all, this 10 number and 14 number, these are the central plaza seatings which were two-way, which participated to the central park as well as to the community areas. And there were jogging trails, walking pathways, lots of seatings. From our earlier examples like the park in Kharghar, we understood that people want lots of seatings. So we gave them n number of seatings. Let's see how. Next slide. This was somewhere, that time the cost was not that we could afford to have the letters. So there was a banner put up, later on letters and all came. We designed even the gate, the perspective of entering to it. So this kind of involvement was possible in the tender thing, which was not possible in the earlier thing. So we enter here. We see there was a climbing wall designed, and the back of the climbing wall was something which was framed through the gateway. Then we reach the entry over here. You can see the lines of these palm trees which were already exit. We created an avenue to focus on the central plaza arbor and all. Next. This is what the central plaza was like, which has a water feature and the vegetation, lots of seatings around it. You can see over here the seatings. And this is what it sees back towards the entry. Next. Again, the detail of the seatings, where certain parts were the pergola and the seating under it, which were the two-way seatings, which you can use from the either side. Lots of tree wells were used to protect the trees which were existing and to plant the new trees. This is what I was talking about, the two-way, when it can be used from either side. Next. The children's play area pocket on this side of this, which had lots of seating again. So here we made it a point that the most of the seatings are socio-petal seatings, which are very important for any kind of landscape intervention, where people talk to each other, not have their back to each other. Next. So this was a skating rink which was designed around an existing tree set with the waiting areas. The climbing wall, it was also designed by us. So, see, newer ideas we wanted to give to people so that lots of engagement should be there with respect to the people. like it was very interesting to even decide the colors, decide the size, scale, everything. Next, the leisure area, which was majorly a very huge garden, lawn, and the seatings around it, a variety of seatings, integration of the trees in between the lawn areas with the tree wells and plantations. Next, this was the community area for recreation, where you can see the amphitheater here and the central plaza here. So these are the different details which were there for the amphitheater and all. Next, how you see the central plaza from the community space, the jogging tracks, tree, how they were used for the seatings and the community purposes. Next. Now, this again, this was 2007 or something. In 2014, what happened to the project, how it went ahead. So there are the images. Now trees were tall, all the buffers which we created between the residential and the things were now dense. But the civil aspect of the thing was deteriorating, maybe because of the lack of maintenance. Next, you can see this was 2016. These all images are from our office. So 2016, you can see what started happening to the civil work and all. Trees, the shrubs were getting older, things like that. Next. Now how people see it. People also document. What we want to document as our project, people document as their space. So now you can see the nameplate has come with the letters and all. So people documented, they see in the night time, daytime, what element they like, they capture it and things like that. Next. Same different areas of the site. A few many things, like I never proposed something which a coconut over there and all, but it has come with the willingness of the people. In one of the images I saw banana plantations and things like that. So people are doing it. Next, how people use it. Again, I never thought some kind of this activity would happen in my lawns. So this is happening. People, somewhere in next slide you will see, people have carved out the space for the volleyball. The surrounding areas, people had some volleyball team. They came to us, please give us a volleyball court. We planned it, but it was rejected or somehow it was not done. So now they have found out, see, you can see in this image, they have found out a corner in the whole thing where they can continue their activity. So many things like children's acts, yoga, musical recitals, or some sanstha has associated, like I've seen in the images, there every year photographs are there. So maybe they are using that space for the locals. Next. Now observation of the people on maintenance, ill maintenance or the bad maintenance of it, or the problems they are facing. So you can see what happened to the climbing wall, how the water in the rainy season getting clogged around and things like that, vegetation growing too much, not pruned and things like that. Next, what people say. So there are some good comments, some bad comments. People, जो उनको पसंद आता है उस चीज़ से उनका एसोसिएशन होता है. जिनके छोटे बच्चे हैं वो छोटे बच्चों के किड्स प्ले एरिया के साथ एसोसिएट होते हैं. जो खुद हेल्थ कॉन्शियस हैं, दे एसोसिएट देमसेल्व्स टू द जॉगिंग एंड द वॉकिंग एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सो यू गेट all kind of comments and remarks. Next. Now to sum up, we can say recreational open spaces in urban areas with its design can have the positive impact, of course, on the environment, but also on the physical, mental and social well-being of the people. One more thing, it is also on the well-being of the city where, like the escalations or the development is faster. Like in the case of Kharghar Garden, I remember when we started the project, the cost of the per square foot over there was 1,500 to 2,000. Once the project was completed, I inquired in the neighboring areas, it reached to 8,000. So it was in the due course of 3 years or something, this was the kind of thing was happening, and it grew so very fast, the surrounding. Every builder wanted to develop that area first because they'll get the advantage of the park and the sellability increases. Same thing. But in case of Panvel Garden, it was a very enclosed kind of thing. It was benefited to the surroundings, but some extent to the second neighborhood or next neighborhood. It might not have influence on the financial aspect or the economic aspect of the area. Thank you so much for listening to me.
For sharing your projects with our students and all the audience, and right from the hierarchy of open spaces which Rahul sir spoke about to a open space which brands the city, which Ramesh sir spoke about, and then you came to a scale where people start engaging on a day-to-day basis with nature, and really very important. Open spaces, an opportunity for people to connect to nature, for the social well-being, and of course the economic well-being for the city as well. Thank you very much. With this, I would like to introduce to you our last speaker for today, our very own Professor Harshad Bhatia. Professor Harshad Bhatia is a noted urban designer, architect, writer, and educator based in Mumbai. After running a professional firm in 1986, he ventured to be a hired brain solo practitioner from 2006. Professor Bhatia is the design chair and a distinguished professor of acoustics at Vivekananda Education Society's College of Architecture, and also on academic councils of various architecture education institutes in Mumbai. We welcome Harshad sir to kindly come to the dais. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. No, but if you all can't see, it's okay over here. We can see. Yeah. So I want you all to see the screen, not me, okay? My left side keeps shaking, so don't worry about that. What I'm going to talk about is my experience, okay? What I say, essence. Instead of essence, I use the word essence now. And what I've got here is I've got hard copies of work I've done in Sitco, in Navi Mumbai rather. So there is also, because I don't want you to miss out onto the beginnings, you know, everything is not on computer. So there's a report about urban design from a competition, and I think Mr. Dangle forgot to mention that the urban designer in Madhav Consultants teams was me. Okay? So modesty apart, hard work. So I have to mention that because it makes a lot of sense for you to know. So my next slide is something I'm asking all of y'all. Brand design. Who is missing here? This is the first slide I always show to architecture and urban design students. Read the question properly. It's not what is missing here. It is who. You are. And once you do that, it's urban design. So the difference between landscape and urban design is people come first in urban design. Okay? And then everything we do in landscape is people oriented. Even if it's a natural reserve, we have people coming first. You know, that's the whole idea. So this is what I always show to start to say that urban design means it's about you. If you're an architect, you should acknowledge your team. It's not about you alone. You should acknowledge your client, but your team also. Now, I'm going to show you a project which is going to be very different from what you all have seen till now. It's just ideas. I was appointed by CIDCO for being an urban design consultant after winning that competition for about a year. And I kept on getting a lot of work from them, but nothing was going up on site. So I was doing out of site design, but in site, nothing was happening. And what I did is I realized that, you know, too many paper projects. I've got a fantastic portfolio of paper projects, but I could do books, volumes on that. I said that let me see what they're giving me next. And they gave me these nodes. This is Kharghar today. You can see Central Park over there clearly. You know, you can see the central portion. This one, Central Park. So if you see the meandering roads in Central Park, they were my contribution because I said the entire Navi Mumbai plan is all straight roads. We want to have this thing where when you're driving, you start seeing something different also. So that was the reason why the roads were meandering there. So they gave me this is the present thing, but when they gave me the drawing, they gave me 22 different situations, 23 rather. These are what we want you to do the urban design on. And they call them focal points. So for urban designer, it was focal point, but for a landscape architect, it would have meant open space. It would have meant something else. So you see how the words were very carefully chosen. I said, now, if I have to work on these 22, and if I've got a consultancy for 1 year, that means my office has to do no earning, only doing work for them. So I said, if nothing is going to come up on the ground, let me throw my idea to them. And this is what I've done. So let me show you. This is the map which, look at Central Park over here, okay, in the center. It's not what you're seeing today. This is 2001. They gave me focal points again within that major focal point and minor focal point. I mean, a focal point is a focal point, whether it's big or small, it's still a focal point. So what I did is I looked at it in a different way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this journey fast. This, I'll take you from focal point number 22. I called it War Museum because I look at 22nd century as a war century. So I'm going to put whatever I do over there will be on this lines of putting something which is dedicated to wars. We are already witnessing some civil wars. So next century is going to be something very difficult for us. So I said, if I'm going to give them numbers, let me start with the extreme one. And to be honest, this compilation is not me, myself. It's not about I, me, myself. It's the staff in my office, which actually I gave them the freedom. Put your ideas. If 22 is the number, and 22nd century is what we want to do, and we want to call it a war museum area, what would we do in an open space? So this is what they came up with, and this is their work. Then I'll go to the second one, 21. Just tell me if I'm on 21. I can't see it from here. 21. I called it the global open space, or the global this thing. So my theme was to do with everything to do with, we are a global century now, 21st century. So this is what they brought out. They said we'll bring in lamp posts which are not from India, and we'll put them in India because we are now connected. We are copying everything. So 21st century is imitation also. So global. And we'll give them the name that this has come from Belgium, this has come from wherever. We'll put like a metro rail, we'll take, a railing, this train which takes you from top. Not like the train we have today, like, through the Borivali National Park. We'll take something 21st century, So this is 2001. Then I'll go to 20. So I rather than going through all of them, I want to just cut short this, not 15 minutes, 5 minutes. Because I think we've already gone over time and we need to have a panel discussion because questions are going to come up. So this is 20th century. So these drawings are done by the faculty, the staff in my office at that time. Now I'm solo, so I do everything on my own. But give them this thing that what do you look as so it's the science, Vigyan, 20th century. And then how do we translate that into the actual design, we'll see later. So the whole idea is that you go from there, then I'll come into a random one now, okay? 14th century, Mughals. So this would be a Mughal plaza. So we would look at Islamic patterns, we would look at patterns, we would use them for flooring, we would look at topiary, we would look at avenues, trying to create. So this is something, and this, I did not leave it with CIDCO because it was too early for me. And I said, I've already given them enough for what they were paying me. And I said, I don't want to renew the contract because you are not executing anything, you're making me do a lot of work. So this is basically what they've done. So flooring pattern. So once you're there, you start relating it to that concept, And coming straight to the point, in between somewhere here, Pandav Kada was 13. Look at my, good luck. That 13 plaza I did not touch. 13 point, I said let Pandav, the hilltop be what it wants to be because 13 is not a good number. So I will not deal with it. 11, Khel, 11 players in a team. So the whole concept was it's a sports this thing. And coincidentally, some of them are large open spaces. So we could really develop these for grounds for playing at different scales, etc. And do things which you first bring the images, then you translate. So I tell my urban design students, be bold enough to ideate. But don't let that first idea be the final idea. Translate it into something that you can do. And don't get caught up into this thing, what will people say, what will sir say, what will the others say. Let people come back and say that, look, you're giving us a lot of thought. So I'm going to end with this. I started with 0. I call it Disha Chowk. This is the first point where you enter Kharghar from. And this and Ekta Chowk, the first one, plaza after that is what I call Ekta Chowk. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So as the crow flies, my plan is showing you 22. So the farthest from the distance straight line is the 22nd open space. So Disha Chowk, we did the model, we showed them what does Disha mean. So if you look at the model carefully, there is a compass. It gives you north, south, east, west orientation. We put a lot of other things also. It's a public plaza. It should be open to people, not 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. Okay? It should be beginning of the area of Kharghar in open spaces. It should be the nucleus from where you get the direction for all the other plazas. So Disha. It should be entering into Kharghar. So you feel a sense of entering into Kharghar. It should go into, what is the next one? Inviting. You feel, why take the road? Why not walk through this? It should be knowing, meaning you understand Disha. That time we were not using Google Maps. It should be also telling you about node map, learning, a lot of things. For us also, alphabets also. We are looking at a vocabulary through urban design to use the open spaces in Navi Mumbai. So when you get a lot of open spaces, you don't just take an ad hoc, say in this garden I will do this or in this park I will do this. Look at the whole picture and create your design as an urban designer, saying that everything is interconnected. So tomorrow when my client gives me only one of the projects, I will have to say this will not work till you give me the other 21. So the whole idea is there's a strategy for you to also build in terms of how you get your work. It makes a lot of sense. And then this is what I wrote down as single keywords at that time. Keywords was also not very famous, but now it's one of the few things we write everywhere. Relaxing, seating, and even sundial. Then what we did is we did the model of the entire street from Disha Chowk to Ekta Chowk. Ekta Chowk is the one you see on top over there. You see that small green circle? That is what they call the first node, which is now today called Utsav Chowk. कुछ उत्सव तो हो नहीं रहा है, लेकिन कॉलम्स है, बीम्स आएंगे, स्लैब आएगा, डोम आएगा, पता नहीं क्या होगा उसके बाद. So I said, let's call it Ekta Chowk. It's the first plaza after this. And what we did for that is something you should also try to understand. So this, if you look at the type of model and the trees we've made using paper, they are not something which is very thoughtfully done. If you look at the trees in Disha Chowk, they're actually fluffs. If you look at the trees that we put in the model in the actual street, they've got a different distinct texture, which we have said that those will be a different species. So it's not that everything was idea. First two chokes we did with this entire Pravesh Marg. We called it Pravesh Marg. I think that's what they also called it. So we'll go to Ekta Chowk.
What are those radial lines?
That's what I'm saying. Oh, so okay, the radial lines, if you all look carefully, it is as the crow flies from Disha Chowk to the distances to each, and then according to them, I give them the numbers. जो सबसे दूर है, the longest one is 22nd Plaza, as the crow flies, distance-wise. So Ekta Chowk is the nearest. So these are circles which I have drawn just to see that, I'm not getting mixed up between 5 and 6 and all that. So this is Ekta Chowk. So this is my design for Ekta Chowk. Now what we did is we did a mound where that Utsav thing is right now. So it should have been a conical mound. So cone has one point. It has one base circle. It doesn't have a four-sided one. It has one-sided base. So ek. And the cone, I wanted it, they gave me these two pieces of plots on the side which are also belonging to Sitco. So these two, you see the two amphitheater type of ramps. So they were gradual ramps. You can climb up and you can also sit on it and you can even just watch for a performance over there. So the trees we planted over there would be the supari. Why? Because there are no branches. Ek hai. So Ekta Chowk mein sab ek ke hisab se hona chahiye. So we planted the trees and then you were facing the cone. So your direction was there, but you could use this. Now behind that, when you see those things, behind this is what you're seeing, and behind this what we created is the informal sector. So you walk inside from behind here, you go inside and you have an arcade below this thing where you have your conveniences and you have your eateries, etc. So what we did is we integrated the informal sector by giving them a space which would not eat away your pavement. So this is what we look as an urban design approach to open spaces. Trees will be there, but people come first. So this is where I think I should end up. And what I want to do is, I don't want to take much time. This is somebody else's? Okay, should I shut it? Yes. So what I want to do is, I've got this drawing. I just want to put it up over here to show you that first do your design thinking on paper. Then use the software to really start improving on it so that it becomes marketable. Not explaining the design using the software. Somebody will have to just help me with this. This is done by my staff, okay? So you give them the freedom to do what they want. Just put it up using the magnet. Ulta, ulta. एक और यहाँ पे आएगा, ये एक आएगा वहाँ पे, कवर कर दो, कोई प्रॉब्लम. Put it here. Is it holding? This is ये लगा दो ना. पकड़ रहा है?
वो उधर से लगा एक टेस्ट. इसको एक को इधर रखो सर.
एक उधर डाल देना.
इसको ऊपर.
ठीक है.
इधर नीचे रखो.
ठीक है ना? नहीं, it's okay. थोड़ा 3D है. So once they did this drawing, then we prepared the PowerPoint. So the whole idea is the same. And why I needed the mouse is because my PowerPoint is not just a PowerPoint, it's 23 PowerPoints. So I have to keep going to the hyperlinking of each of them. So I didn't have the time to show it to the Vice Chairman MD. I decided that this remains with me as one of the projects which I could have done further. But you have ideas. Do that. Do options. Now, one option was looking at the 22nd century. So the first was Ekta Chowk, second was Setu Chowk. Third was Trimurti. Fourth was something to do with 4. 5, 5 Chowk. 6, क्या हो सकता है? They were all written over there. So I'm just testing you all that whether you all read it or not. 7 is Saat sur, saat color. You got it? 8 is Shatranj. 9 is Navgraha. It was trending at that time, Navgraha. 10 fortunately was a large open space like a Maidan, Dasera Chowk. 11 was Khel. 12 was, and वो तो बाकी तो हो गया अभी. So 12th century से you start getting eras. So now this was one way. Could there be another way in which this concept could be developed rather than looking at it as 1, 2, 3, 4? A, B, C, D से कर सकते थे. So A से first chowk would be everything to do with A. Access, approach. You know, it's something which, so then you start thinking about what could be the way you convey that to the people. So plantation and all वो तो आएगा ही, but even plants. So if I look at papaya, how many these things does it have? Have you ever counted? I think it's got 9. 3, 3, 3. Correct? So I could use that in the Navgraha Chowk. So something where people start also, there's a lot of curiosity, it builds a lot of interest. So I think just be a little bit more innovative, and this should happen in your first week of your project being introduced to you. It doesn't need you to really go beyond into trying to get all the data in detail. So initiate an idea first. And ideas are like diamonds. You get carbon first. And diamonds, if you want to make carbon into diamonds, the ideas have to be cut, polished and set. So that's what I wanted to tell you all that. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah. Sorry. What do I have to remove?
Thank you, sir. It was a great learning looking at concepts of open spaces from a different perspectives of focal points. And it makes these dialogues open our minds to new ways of thinking. And let's continue with that. This brings us to the end of the first session of Mumbai Dialogues. And we shall now begin with the panel discussion. We request our panelists, Architect Ramesh Dangle, sir, Professor Harshad Bhatia, sir, Architect Smita Gupta, and Architect Subhagya Raval to please come forward to stage. Please join us on the stage. And Architect Samir Sheikh, sir, shall be the moderator for the panel discussion. Architect, sir, I'll just introduce you quickly for Architect Samir Sheikh and Subhagya ma'am, who is come here for the panel discussion. Architect Samir Sheikh is an architect and urban designer. He is the HOD of the Master of Architecture Urban Design at VESCOA. He holds 25 years of professional experience in India and abroad. He has worked on a wide variety of sectors including housing, retail, education, transportation, healthcare and urbanism in various roles. Architect Samir is keen on studying and exploring the human angle of technology today as well as in future. I would also like to introduce to you our panelist, Architect Subhagya Raval. Subhagya ma'am is the founder and principal architect of Land Art Studio, a boutique firm specialized in landscape design and master planning for over a decade now. With over 17 years of experience in landscape architecture, she excels in her design with national and international footprint. With a keen interest on academic end, she intermittently acts as a mentor and guide to students to achieve their full potential. She also serves as a thought partner and contributor to the international magazine. Subhagya ma'am holds a specialization in landscape architecture from CEPT University, Ahmedabad, and has completed an executive course in landscape and infrastructure of smart cities at Erasmus University in Rotterdam, Netherlands. We welcome you all and kindly request you to begin the session. The forum is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Udra ma'am. We are already running over time, so we'll try to keep this panel discussion as brief as possible, but also try to cover as many topics as possible. Just to summarize whatever we've seen till now, and it's been so much that my brain hard disk is already full now, but hopefully, we can refresh it with some, enlightening conversation here. We had Rahul Kulkarni who presented, different types of open spaces, international examples, how urban design and landscape can come together, and how, the two professions can create spaces which are very interactive at the same time, right? Smita ma'am, landscape architecture projects, 2 projects, very relevant because we're talking about Navi Mumbai. I'll be asking some questions about it because, it was very interesting from an urban design point of view also. But fantastic projects. Dangle sir, as always, the entire story of Navi Mumbai and all the open spaces and parks was, as always, very, very enlightening. And Harshad sir, every time he comes here, it's always entertaining, right? And his first slide is something that makes you smile and laugh and start, you start thinking about stuff. Though it is funny, it sort of triggers something in your brain. So, and now joining with us is Subhagya, who's a landscape architect, and we're very glad to have her as a panelist. To start with, I had, when we look at open spaces and in Navi Mumbai, the rate of open space per capita is 3.95 square meters per capita, right? Which is quite good, quite low compared to WHO, which is about 10 to 12. But it's right at par with cities like Ahmedabad, definitely higher than Mumbai, and lower than Singapore. But, I've been hearing that 3.95 square meters per capita is good. I mean, and if nobody is complaining so much from an Indian point of view. I mean, you may, add to that, but, that's what I have been researching. So I'll come to you. I mean, based on all these presentations, I would like to give you an opportunity to add anything from your side, after all these fantastic presentations. Is anything that sort of comes to your mind?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible to everyone? Yes. Yeah, great. So, thanks, Samir, and good evening to everyone. I think what I'm trying to say here is that what all the presenters talk about, I'm just going to give one example of my own project, which might touch base upon various aspects, but particularly one element which I want to bring in on. So, here I'm talking about one of the projects which we did in Baroda. One element is why Baroda is, this particular project is a public place. Privately owned public space, basically. So there's a combination of how we deal with it. Second is, I did this project with an urban designer. So it's a collaborative effort to get our vision of adaptive reuse project to life. So just to give you a brief about this project is that this was a pharmaceutical company, an industry in the heart of the city. The city grew, the industry moved out of the city. And now this place was available for redevelopment, for a new purpose, for a new function. And now we were thinking, when we do analysis for a city, the first question we always ask is what the city wants or what the city does not have. And the good part is this question is asked by both urban designers as well as landscape architects, right? And while we were answering these questions on our own individual boards, like Mr. Shyam Khandekar, who is an urban designer, in collaboration with him, I was on my drawing board discussing and designing the spaces for this. And he was deciding on the elements which has to be retained from the industrial era. And now that the space is defined as Alembic Art District, you can look at for that. It is a, so the outcome of this space is it has become a buzzing place, a new public space for not only Baroda, but all along the cities in Gujarat and outside also. This space is now hub for events, cultural events, art decos, flea market. Not only that, it also has a leisure for everyone to visit every evening. Now this has become the physical aspect which I am talking about, giving a purpose and function to the old industrial district. But what is also very different, which I want to bring in here, is how that space has gone into the emotional and mental memory of persons. Because Alembic being the pharmaceutical company, many people actually from Baroda work for this industry. So what has happened, a grandfather going to this place actually narrates a story from the past, how the industry used to be here, because there are still some reminiscences of the past there. And the next generation is kind of understanding the history and taking their own narration and making their own impressions and taking it forward. So I think that that ability of creating a legacy is something which I feel is absolutely important while we are creating open spaces. And that's what I wanted to bring in here. That not only being the physical aspect, but as Smita ma'am was saying, that how we relate to it, not only physically, but also the sense of legacy, a legacy story. How can we build on those lines for our so-called recreation of spaces? You know, can we redefine this recreation of spaces is what I was talking about. With that, over to you, Samir.
Right. Thanks, Subhag. I think it's wonderful, and I'll definitely take a look at this Alembic Art District,
Yes.
and
Please do
I'm sure
visit.
it's in Baroda. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Harshad sir, I will come back to you because carrying forward on this issue of creating a mental and emotional space through landscape, through urban design, through open spaces. When you were working on the Central Park in Kharghar, was there a specific vision, a specific idea, a specific sort of big picture, what you wanted to create that you had in mind?
Central Park. Am I audible? Hello? Better?
Yeah.
So Central Park was primarily a landscape design competition, but there was the urban design element by carving out plots for development also. So it was a balance between both conservation of nature and development. Why I say conservation of nature is because, if you see the geography of Central Park, from Pandav Hills, the flow, as Mr. Dangle has pointed out, goes right through Central Park and comes out and meets the creek. So that portion is what we decided, what Mr. Madhav also said, let's keep it as natural as possible. So that was not made accessible to the public in an open way where you would go for recreation as such. But you were allowed to go through trails over there. And what we did is we wanted it to be a popular thing with the people. So just like the forts, if you see in North India, they've got like Delhi Darwaza, Kashmiri Gate. So we decided that there will be 4 entrances at the 4 north, south, east, west. And we will create, let's say, the entrance looking at a gateway of that era from the north and the north side. So like Charminar would be on the south. Gateway of India replica would be on the west. See, it may sound corny, it may sound very populist, but the whole idea is that people will relate to it. But if I did something which was very much an architectural design, then I would be designing for architects, not for the people. So I look at it that way. So these 2 things were important. And then as an urban designer, my question was always with Mr. Madhav is, you expect people to come here, what are the numbers? And he's already done Anand one, right, in Shegaon, Anand Sagar in Shegaon. So Shegaon was a good example where he also had the experience that people come in cars. So we created a large parking lot also. So we had to really see that all those things happen within the site, not spill over onto the road. So a lot of people started feeling there's too much of concrete area. but this was a necessity, you know. So as an urban designer, he was very receptive to it because of his experience also, meaning to my suggestion. And the meandering road was what I wanted to feel, that you feel you are no longer in Navi Mumbai, but you are driving through another area. So that was the reason why. So as you said, mental and emotional. But can I just come back to your first question?
Sure.
3.95 square meter per person per capita for recreational open space, right? I think it's time we started redefining how we do our recreation and calculating the actual area of how we do it in India. And then we go to New York and tell them you have excess development. I mean, at some point of time, haven't we learned from the lockdown? We are working from home. So mixed land use is always going to be there. You are going to adapt yourself to any situation you come to. So we don't need to really consciously look at it in that way, that we are living in the past and trying to apply it in the present. So time is a very valuable dimension. So same thing, because as she said, the same open space which is recreational is used for art, like art shows, etc., etc. So those are not really recreation. So those are more cultural. So you are looking at mixed use already in that place. You know? So I think that we need to just not catch on onto these measures of 3.95 square meter or whatever, but try to find out how we do our recreation. And then try to work out what will be the area required. Because land is a scarce thing, you know, if you don't use it effectively, then the economic efficiency of keeping that land for a use. Yeah. So like Christopher Alexander's "A city is not a tree." You know, pardon me, but Smita, you know, most of the photographs which you took, there were no people. You know, so that's what I feel, that we need to open it up to the people. And then as you did, the right thing you did is you went and saw how they post their own photographs about the use. And that's the learning for all of us. You know, we are learning all the time. University qualifies, practice educates. Keep that in mind. So we want all of you all to be practitioners, okay? Don't look for jobs, create jobs. And I think in a larger way.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to bring back to...
I would like to add to your question to Harshad about Central Park design. I was the convener. I was not the jury member or something. I was convener. And when these all 5 presentations happened, I was inside. And Madhav's and Harshad's presentation was the last. The first 4 were from abroad. And the way the presentations were grilled by the jury, I was so happy. Because we have that phobia, you know, that whatever those people do is perfect. And we can't. So I was very happy. And when the last presentation happened, I was shocked that jury did not have question. Ravindravan, Professor Ravindravan, I just went and asked everyone that, sir, please ask something. And they said, no, we don't want to ask. I mean, that was the response that design gave to our brief, to the site, and how meaningfully the whole thing, the whole project brief was brought into the design. That was the great effort.
Right.
Thank you.
I have the Central Park presentation which we did for the competition with me, but I decided not to show it because 15 minutes I would be just touching the teen. So it's a 110 MB presentation, and every every species was specified. So as he said, there were no questions asked because the answers were all there. So it was complete in every respect. And we wanted it to be like what Mr. Madhav said, that let's do it in such a way. Harshad, you do the speaking. I said, definitely I'll do the speaking, but you do the inputs. And we want it to really be in such a way that once we win the project, when they appoint, we don't need to spend time doing working drawings. So we had gone to that level of detailing.
Right. So, I mean, just before I jump to the next question, I don't know if people have noticed, because it ties into the discussion that we are having. It's called recreational open spaces in urban areas, right? So, and the topic was very deliberately selected because it's not just open spaces, because open spaces opens up a bigger discussion, whereas recreation is something that we are specifically looking at. And Harshad sir and I in the studio have been discussing about this aspect of open space, recreation space. How do we define these spaces, and I think that needs further discussion and agreement on amongst landscape architects and urban designers. But just wanted to point that out. Smita ma'am, when you mentioned about one of your projects, the first one, I forget the name, Krantivir something, right? Yeah. You said when you started designing, when the park was built, there was nothing around it.
Very
right?
less.
Very less development around it. And the next picture after some years, you showed there is a lot of development around it, and it looked like there was some commercial development also, very high-rise buildings. Now, my question is, but the photographs or the images that you were showing was just the boundary of the park, right? So was there any change in the context beyond your park, because all these buildings were coming up? What impact did that new development have on your park, or did it have any, in terms of how it was used, in terms of negative issues of parking, or things like that?
Very interesting stories are there for them. Like, this park was done and it was not open for people for a very, very long time. They were waiting for CM or something to come up. So people were waiting when they barged in, and they opened it for themselves. It happened for both the parks. I think second one was inaugurated, sir? I don't remember. It was by force people opened it because they wanted that open space. Now, as your question, about the Kharghar project, this Shilpa Chowk became a node for the whole area, around which lots of activities are happening, which are sometimes informal activities also. You will find lots of eateries and all coming up over there. And along with the park boundary, park was fenced. One side was the stormwater drainage canal, so nothing was possible. But on the main road side, parkings, whenever time I have gone or I have read through the thing, nobody complained about the parking because the pathways were very wide. It could accommodate the informal activities as well as the people on the pathways. Earlier, it was a very good initiative of CIDCO to have the walkable wide pathways. Now the 1.5 meter is somewhere, everywhere, whether it's a bigger road or a smaller road or interior road. So that was a very good thing happened to that park. They had space enough at the entry level to accommodate all kind of different things which are other than the park, in front of the park.
Right. Because that always intrigues me, in terms of the development whenever, because most of the projects that we're talking about, even Central Park, have been done years ago, 20 years back, and then things have changed a lot around it, and what effect it has on that park or that space is something Harshad says.
It's a very valid point, because the same thing happened in New York, Manhattan, Central Park. Not the High Line, but the Central Park itself. Whenever we do these parks, we are not looking at the immediate surroundings. It's time that we urban designers really went to that scale, that if there's a large open space proposed like this, then we need to really look at how we can cap the heights of the buildings around it. Otherwise, we'll have to call it Central Dark.
I'll come to Ramesh sir now. Very direct question. You did mention that during your tenure at CIDCO, you worked with various consultants and architects, landscape architects, urban designers, urban planners, everybody. Before I jump to my question, one thing I wanted to mention was, in your presentation, the one consultant I did not find was an economist. Now, is that something that you do deliberately left out, or is it something that you bring in on projects?
Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, SIDCO is different in many ways because SIDCO has in-house capability. Only there are very few missing fields. Like urban design, only I was there. Landscape, there is none. So we appoint the consultant, SIDCO appoints the consultant only where it doesn't have in-house. We have own economics department. So the economics of any project, the techno-economic feasibility that we work out for new project, that is mostly done in-house. So that economics is already covered by the in-house expertise.
It is commercial.
Yeah.
So now I come to my question. Now with all the urban designers, landscape architects, in your opinion, in your experience, how can we increase the interaction between public authorities, whether it's SIDCO or MMRDA, and professional bodies like, and this is not, to do projects, but to just create awareness about the profession of urban design and landscape architecture?
To the public bodies.
Yeah.
See, the problem with public bodies is for anything, there is a process called tender, which is the most harmful thing. Because, I mean, in case of Central Park, in case of all parks, almost everywhere I had to fight. Because I go by Council of Architecture guidelines. So the fees is mentioned. Then in case of landscape, they were saying 7.5. I mean, it was unheard of. I said, that is mentioned in the Council of Architecture, this thing. And I am not going to take any this thing because it is Indian Architects Act. And if you want, please feel free. But I will not change it. So in most of the cases, we could pay 7.5%. And I said 7.5% of what? You look at the material,
it's
plants,
hardly anything. Hardly.
this, that. अरे उसका क्या cost होगा और उसके ऊपर क्या आप इतना ये करते हो? I mean, I found it very. In case of Central Park, I said we will fix up the fees first. There should not be a competition of technical plus financial. That is the most harmful thing. So I dissociated that thing. So we first finance, you fix, because if you are expecting global consultants to come up, then you have to tell them the fees in Indian rupees will be so much. If you want to participate, you can, otherwise you can back out.
Right.
As simple as that. But once that fees is fixed, we are only checking the quality and there is nothing else to it. But this is not acceptable.
Right.
So what happens is if you try to go to these people and tell them that this thing is like this thing can be made beautiful and all that, and how it can be done, they will listen to you, but they will not do anything because then they have to call for the tender or competition or something.
Right. Right.
And that is why it is very difficult to sell the ideas.
Right.
So what I advocate is, particularly to the students, that you can make the difference. You show one project, you can tell them that I will not charge anything, but please do this way. And moment that money part is gone, they are comfortable. They don't have to pay you, but then they will listen to you. That is what my experience is. But at the same time, you can't do for all the projects.
Right. Right.
But otherwise, it is very difficult to convince them, and it also depends on the individual person. Like SIDCO is a managing director-driven organization. And I was really lucky to get excellent managing directors who could understand what is landscape, what is urban design, what is planning. We don't have to teach them. And when we say something, they immediately understand, appreciate, and do it. But some of them were not like that. But that is the way it goes on for SIDCO. But for other organizations like corporations and all those things where there is a elected body, it is not one person who is driving the force. So then it can be the other way around. This is like top down,
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
bottom up.
Yeah.
So you can collect the people together, the corporator and all that, and show that this can be done, and then go up and get it approved.
Exactly, exactly. You know, that is perfectly, I think.
Just add.
Yeah, please.
Sir, sorry, I differ here slightly because it was my experience 17 years back. I was ready to do a park for government free of cost because after graduation I was with that energy, I want to bring the change. Yeah, right. And I actually did 2 parks for in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, and I literally went several times and I changed, and they actually made me change. Like I was doing those parks for almost 3 months, thinking that some change I'm bringing. I had literally no sense of like payment or nothing. I was just wanting to be my original me, want to bring the change in government. Like the way we say that be the change you want to be. But eventually I realized that that's not the way it's going to happen. Because as you correctly again said, that it definitely depends on who's sitting on the other side and who has that way of understanding. So I think we have to be rightly choose. Even if the student want to participate that way, I think one of the important thing, like what Anand sir said, that you do have a cell, and I think that would be the right way to approach any project, because what that does is that it of course gives you an authority. Kids are put in their thoughts, and it gives you a sense of hand holding and a sense of kind of even kids are doing, they feel secured while they are doing that. So I think that might be a better way of addressing these things and going to the government rather than,
I will
that's
again-
what my experience. That's
I will
why-
add to whatever she says. The best way to do that is to become a part of the system. Because system has its own machinery and it functions the way it will. You can't change the system. So what I did is I became the part of the system. Since I became the part of the system, I could do the lot of changes. So it's very difficult task, and if you decide not to take some other benefits, then it's all the more very difficult.
No, I think that's a very fair point, I think. And I think this, we should keep discussing, we should carry forward this discussion about, engaging with the government bodies. I have a lot of questions, but I think we are running out of time. Yeah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to add on to the public places, public bodies being part of the design and execution decisions. Like it is very strange to see that within the departments, interdepartments or two bodies of a government, they don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. They are different, we are different. So the person has to run around all the things. So they're kind of any sort of knowing things. Like for example, I was working for Panvel Municipal Council that time. There was a competition. So they didn't have that staff to do the technical approval. So they were dependent on the another government body. So we don't know, you take over them. Okay, once this is done, we don't know, you have to go about it. So they don't know each other. The two are different government bodies, but they don't know. So this kind of change has to be that all the public agencies are known to each other. They work together. Every agency is working individually.
They work in silos, basically.
Yes, yes,
everybody
yes.
is.
So just, it's a fact that they ask you to do work for free. I was told that for a bus stop design in Navi Mumbai, I was told that so-and-so has given us 3 designs and implemented them through his own pocket. And there are 3 different designs.
A very
So
rich,
if
very
you
rich
also-
consultant.
So you also do it for us and I will give you this thing, we'll see. So I said, at this rate, every architect will do one bus stop. You don't need to appoint anybody because you'll have all the bus stops. So what I did is I made a small model and I gave it to him. I said, this is my free this thing for you. So if you want the actual 1:1 scale, you will have to pay me. Because advising here is one thing, but I have to take a call. What are the options? If I have to do a free design for somebody at 1:1 scale at my cost, how am I going to finance myself? So there are architects and there are designers who may be doing it, but they may be taking cuts from somebody else. So the entire system is so badly, this thing skewed because of this mentality. Okay, when the person in the organization who's heading it tells you, okay, this fellow has done it free for me, you also do that because example hai. You have to put your principles in place and you got to say that, no, now you have to take a call. The second call is you do it free. The Council of Architecture will come and question you. Why are you doing it free? So you are not even living up to your own professional standards. So if you don't live up to them, how do you expect the council to support you? So we need to be very clear about doing this. And let me be honest, after so many years, now I can say that the time I spent not doing things for free was my time. It was more valuable than the money I would have made. You understand that? So I think stick to your values, stick to your principles. And the moment you don't do that, it'll be difficult for you to come out. That's something you should be saying. I'll tell you, all the designs I've done, the planners were very happy with it. But when the decision making came to the vice chairman, managing director, the economists decided. So planners don't have a say. Honestly speaking, that's what I noticed. The economists decided. So I told the BCN MD that, look, what's your problem? Why aren't the projects being implemented? Funds. I said, okay, then keep the design aside. Give me the job to raise the money for it. I will work in this direction. So they said, no, but that's not your scope. I said, but I have the confidence to do it. Because my designs I can take to the market and sell it. But they don't leave it to you because the planners are patting your back and the economist says, planner ne kiya hai, nahi, ye nahi chalega.
Sir, I noticed this in US, my recent visit. Like many of the public spaces were funded by some individual or for some, so fundraising kind of thing, I don't know why it is not possible for public areas or public spaces in our cases.
Yeah. No, I think this is a good time to sort of open it up for questions for the audience. We'll have a few questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, kindly raise your hand. We'll pass on them.
It is not a question, not a strategy to grab the mic, but just to add to the discussion here, what Dangle sir was saying. Yeah. To add to it, the bottoms-up approach. Is my voice audible now? No. So we have tried that strategy of a bottoms-up approach and multiple funding. In fact, that was a social experiment which we called terms of engagement, and we did a public park behind World Trade Center. It was funded, so people have the most power, never do the first project for free, I would say. Give your pitch for free, but never do the project for free. So people have the power. So people approach the elected corporator, and that's why elections are so important, and it's sad that today we don't have it for more than 3 years. And they came together, funded the design. So people plus the corporator, they have an association, all residential associations that people know. They funded the seed, they put the seed money for design, went the systematic way of local governance, approached through the committee at ward level, convinced the commissioner that this is what we want, and then it was floated as a tender. Later we came to know the tender was already floated, like in your case, the contractor is there and then the design. But people were fed up, it was a derelict piece of land, and regarding safety and other issues. The co-funding happened through another organization, which was Reliance Funds, because it was a pet park. So, and the Reliance son is an animal lover, so he funded a part of it. So like this, there were 2-3 fundings which came together. Along with the people, the park is designed. Every Sunday morning, it's a musical show there which happens. And all the cultural programs are planned there. Like you said, that it is not just an open space. It has to be of multiple use. So the engagement process of that place is also managed by local associations. And Soundrise started playing from there. If you follow the band, they got music into the park, so that's where the seed was laid for them. So I think the start point is the people, because a vote gathering happens, your MLA will listen to you, and if the corporator and people approach the local government, it goes a bottom up, and crowdfunding happens. So I think if an architect, urban designer, landscape architect can engage first with people, initiate the process, then the money definitely comes. Yeah. But if we follow to go inside the office, show our project and ask for a fee, that will never happen.
Thanks for the comment, Jasmine. It's good. Anand sir had something, right? Okay. Any of the students? No questions? Sleepy? You ask. Oh, that side.
We ask questions to the students there. Looks like they have already known everything.
Viva.
Why not? They should actually ask them if they have realized the difference between or working together.
I think that's a good point.
This is a question or a looking forward, how to look at these two professional streams. I start with one point. One thing is what I mentioned in the initial note, that what will the students take back. I think Harshad sir very nicely wrapped it in saying that live up to your ethics and values. That's the most important thing. Make sure that you live up to Council of Architecture, which binds you to abide. The second is the question in continuation to Samir sir, your first point which you mentioned about how do we measure situations. I tried to research on how did this 10 WHO 12 square meters comes, or we should be happy with 3.2 square meter per person per hectares per person, or we should be happy with or we should crib about 1 point or less than 1.2
Mumbai.
1.2 including the Borivali National Park, but accessible open spaces is less than 0.9 or 0.8 as per PK Das report what it says. But is that the final way how to look upon to human beings, cities, both the profession, what I see it as urban design or landscape architects, where did it evolve, or even planning? We adopted British system, we adopted American system on these courses. At VESCOA we were also looking at how cities needs to be looked at through the perspective or philosophies of acoustics, which is coined by Doxitis. Looking at these various angles which I am trying to portray, why we are not identifying these places, say example landscape architecture or the projects which sir showed, madam showed, what is the impact on people, what is the impact on cities? Landscape is not done because of the aesthetical purpose or for only recreational purpose. It has a much more deeper values, psychological impacts, environmental impacts. Are these two impacts psychology, because how it impacts people? Second, environmental impacts, what kind of microclimatic conditions changes because of these? Can these becomes a measurable factor if climate change is the thing which is needed to be looked at cities to protect them? So it's that we should measure them only from these angles, or a larger perspective on, yes, the landscape design or the urban design intervention should psychologically impact the citizens, the people, because it's for them whom we are designing. And also the microclimatic, okay, Kharghar got this. what is the impact on local climate? There are many other cities. So that's a question, and also how do we look it forward?
The climate change aspect, basically. Yeah.
No doubt that it is important that what a project does to the surrounding should be measured in various scales and various parameters. But what people don't understand and what we know is our expertise. That I will give you one example of one presentation that happened. I will not take the name of the firm, naturally multinational firm, who did the master plan for Mumbai. And I was called as a jury to attend that. And all these presentations start with one slide, which I hate the most. They show that they draw a person, and Mumbai has, this much open space. Then the other city, this much, then this, that, Washington, this much, London, that much, and all that. It really irritates me, but I kept quiet. Then the presentation went on and on and on. I was waiting for one slide to come, and that was the FSI. They said that FSI needs to be increased. Then I said, I have a question for you. Then he said, yes. Can you go back to the first slide? Then all those multinationals were shocked. I said, you heard me right. Can you go back to the first slide? Because I have a question on that first slide. He said, unwillingly they went, and I said, here you are showing that we are having minuscule open space. Okay? Why can't you leave us with that? Then they said, yes, we are leaving that open space. I said, you are not. Because you are doubling FSI, which means per capita, you are even, whatever that minuscule open space, you are just reducing it further instead of increasing, and you are not telling how that open space needs to be increased. Then they did not know, because FSI increase, unless you increase the FSI, the DP will not get sanctioned. Very simple. But nobody talks about increasing the open space. Then the presentation went, they tried to give me some golmaal answer, great vocabulary, great English and all that. And at the end, they asked me, do you have suggestions to increase the open space? I said, of course I have. Then he said, please give us. Then I said, within the existing fabric, it is impossible to increase the open space because everybody owns land and that land amounts to so much. But you have so many mill lands. Why can't you put the mill lands as open spaces, social amenities and public utilities, and there won't be any private development? Then they were shocked. Then the top person came to me after this thing, and he asked, where are you working? I said, I am working in Sidco. Are you happy? I said, I am extremely happy. Then he said, but I will give you my card. If you think otherwise, please come to us. So what I am trying to say is, you have your brain clear, and what people, you are meant to do the things which a common man cannot recognize. A common man will never recognize this, that mill lands can be made open spaces. One of the persons told me that you are going to get threatening calls, which I got. So obviously, but you should not be scared of these things, because if you don't put your views, then people will start, okay, this can happen. So it is not only how the project impacts the surrounding, it is also what kind of impacts we should impart to get the projects, to make the open spaces more and change the overall microclimate.
Sir, I would like to add this. as Sir Anand sir's question, like the impact on the surrounding. I was the part of the team of Anand Sagar Shegaon work, which is nearly 200 acres of park, has a 45 acres of a water body. This water body was not existed. We had to lift the water from the river because the water was going. So, and it is all the green areas. So impact was, since Shegaon being the rain shadow area, people were doing one crop in a year. Because of this water body, we allowed the percolation, 1 inch percolation every day. And that much we used to refill with the river or the dam. So that percolation impacted nearly the radius of 16 kilometers. Water table was risen up. And fauna, because of the vegetation and all, nearly 15 new types. Now, we were so happy that our client is so aware of all such things. They recorded all this by themselves. All the technical measuring was done by them only. 15 new kinds of birds were there which were making habitat in the greens which were developed. Then at some point of time, Shegaon becomes waterless somewhere in the month of May end and something. So these things become the water supply areas for the people in the Gaon. So these are the impacts, which even the temperature, these are high, very high temperature areas, close to 47 something, very hot areas. So temperatures have reduced down between 4 to 6 degrees in the extreme. So these are the impacts, obviously, the open spaces are making to the surroundings.
Mandar had a question. Right?
I just want to add that my question is more, yes, there is a change to the entire overall, but we should stop using these foreign standards of measuring things by 10 square meter hectares per or versus the change in biodiversity and change in microclimate or change in climate change as a standard or a benchmarking, and have our way of looking at things.
As a professional, my suggestion would be, why don't we have our own standards?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
we as a professional bodies, we are in a state where the bigger cities like Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, they don't have any urban design guidelines, landscape guidelines to make a city better. It is all left to the public bodies, whether the head person understands that or not. No architects are there on that position to decide for the city. So it's us who have to take care of all that.
So just adding, Smita ma'am, to what you are saying. So in our projects, we have actually started doing that. So we have done some analysis on, because of, I can't name it directly, but what we have done is there were few standards which were supposed to be followed. And then now what we are doing is we are trying to understand what are these, but trying to apply them in Indian context and to see what we are doing. So we have not yet done it completely, but we are in the process of doing, at least for our projects, and then eventually, of course, if it is successful, why not to extend it to others? Yeah.
I think due to shortage of time, we can have one more question from the audience.
No, wait, Mandar was asking something. Achha.
Last question to be given to the student.
Hello. Good evening.
Last question on
Mandar can ask his question.
My question is more inclined towards the design part of it. So Ramesh sir was talking about FSI being doubled and we have very little land. So when I was working during my internship in an office, we were given a high-rise design project, and according to the DCR rules and all, we are supposed to give a certain percentage for recreational areas. But the plot that we were working on, that we were designing, had very little plot area. That was, I think, some 800, 900 square meters. So obviously the recreational ground goes a little above. So we were given parking and then recreational ground and then the apartments began. So will there come a time where the mill, like you said, the mill areas can be used as recreational ground? Will there come a time where all of these spaces are used up? Will the recreational grounds go above the building? Will it become a canopy?
Hello. See, even if we leave open spaces as open spaces, it is better. Because I have been on the other side of the table. What these people do is within open spaces, gymnasium is permissible. 10%. Now, if you, they will say only 10%. 90% open space remains. How 90% open space will remain, you tell me? We are all architects. We need side margins from all sides. We need parking for that 10% gymnasium FSI, unless that plan is not approved. So it goes to 40%, 50%. So why you need that open space to cater to anything and everything? You come out with something, they will say, open space है उसमें डालो. अरे ये क्या है, कचरा है क्या वो? In our body, we have lungs in the center, and that too, it is the only organ which is protected by a cage of bones. Why? अरे एक additional heart लगा दो, liver लगा दो, इतने brain लगा दो, it can't happen. The open space is the most protected thing, and it should remain protected. And regarding your this question about the recreational area, that is not a recreational area. That is just an open area. How it can be recreational area? Unless you have ground which can grow the trees, unless you have soil where you can touch your bare feet and feel the soothing effect of it, how it can be a recreational area? But these people are doing it and nobody opposes it. That is the most horrible part. It's always, as Samir sir said, solely driven by the economics.
So,
unfortunately,
see, in your internship, probably you must have looked at a certain part of the open space needs to be on Mother Earth. Right? Not everything can be raised.
Samir, can I just tell you all, you're just reserving that open space with the intention of it being left because it's supposed to be left. Have you ever gone and studied how many people really use that space? Time is more valuable than money. Remember that. If you got land reserved for recreation and if it's not being used efficiently over time for the purpose intended, why have you left it? Be objective about your thinking. The rules are man-made. The rules can be changed. You understand? And a few months back, I was thinking about vertical farming as going against urban. Because urban farming is not a primary, sector in urban. So the planners are taught that primary sector means rural. Okay? But 1 acre of vertical farming in an urban area will save you 10 acres of farmland outside it. Because I become self-sufficient with my food production. So every 1 acre that you do farming in the city will save you 10 acres of farming in the rural areas. And you will be saving the rural areas from this grazing farming requirements, which are just taking over forests. Our forests are being denuded because we need grazing lands. We need more farming because our food production has gone up. Food consumption because of the population. So we need to rethink, redefine primary sector as not only rural. It has to come into the urban area.
But also, you're mentioning about raised, and any of the landscape architects will talk about what Singapore did because they have very little space. And there's a policy of green replacement. So that's a solution that they have
New York
come
Highline
up with.
is one of the very...
It's a landscape replacement.
Yeah. Landscape replacement, yes, exactly, yeah. Podium one, yeah.
Deficiency. So suppose if your plot
They pay, yeah, exactly.
paid as a source of additional revenue.
Revenue.
The lesson to be learned is from Hong Kong because the first SARS came before COVID and the podium DCRs are different there. Because there are so many podiums now that you have to evaluate that the space below the podium has air. It all happened after SARS. So we are reaching that stage with the increase in FSI and having more podiums. We'll wait for another 26 prediction to happen, and then your DC 2019.
No, and I think just to add to that, what is more important is what are we really creating out of those podium landscape. I mean, the quality and the what really are we giving there. So in one of the projects you can see that it's a whole 8-storied building. It has 99 trees on it. So now you can see that, okay, fine, it's a multi-level car park. You have 99 trees on that. So there is something, and on the other side, if you have really a large podium and it just lawn and just hard surfaces, what are we creating? So we have to really analyze with that aspect rather than just thinking whether it will all go on podium or all go somewhere. It has to be what we are creating. Basically, we have to ask question to ourselves that what are we going to really deliver, rather than just taking what we have given. Yeah.
Let's. I think there's refreshments, and we'll have to sort of.
Yeah. So,
and we can continue the discussion with
so,
everybody else over.
Yeah, I think we can conclude the question answer session for now. And so we would like to extend our thanks to all the speakers and panelists for today's session. I request our principal, Dr. Professor Anand Pachari sir, to kindly present the mementos to our speakers.
Yeah. Probably they'll call out the names and stuff.
I request all the speakers to kindly be seated in the audience.
I have no idea.
We request Dr. Anand sir to kindly come to the dais. Architect Ramesh Dangle sir. Architect Harshad Bhatia sir. Harshad Bhatia sir. Architect Rahul Kulkarni sir. Architect Subhagya Rawal. Architect Subhagya Rawal. Architect Smita Gupta. On behalf of IUDI and ISOLA, I request Architect Pallavi Kulkarni and Architect Urmala Rajadeksha ma'am to kindly come to the dais and present a token of thanks to Anand sir. I request all the dignitaries present today to kindly come to the dais for a group photo. If you can please come to the dais. I request the students to kindly wait. Request them to be please be seated. Request everyone to please be seated. I invite Architect Pallavi Kulkarni ma'am to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
So I don't have any more presentation or any more educative talk, but this is really important to conclude the event today. On 28th of December, some of us IUDI members gathered here. I think we were 10, 12 of them. And we were gathering after quite a bit of time. But, we all came out of enthusiasm and we were joined by Dr. Anand. And, we shared our thoughts with him. He shared his thoughts with us. Coincidentally, I am in Chembur, the institute is in Chembur. Urmila ma'am, president of ISOLA, is around. So it was a very, kind of unique situation which made all of us this collaboration and this making this event or this whole activity happen very seamless and very easy. And sir, that day told us and he kind of assured that we will do something. And sir, I must thank you for, making this happen for us. So this is for you, for the entire VESCO management, your admin, your faculty, and also all the students who came here for the event. And I know a lot of you all have assisted to, arrange and, make the venue impeccable and get things in place.
So thank you so much for contributing to us this way. Ma'am, this is our first collaborative event, I think, ISOLA and IUDI. And what's special about this event is that it has happened without any paperwork and without any too many long discussions and without any of the formalities for the two institutes to associate. And I think with this understanding, I'm sure that we'll be able to take this ahead and spread this association on the national platform as well. The panelists who all were here today are all ISOLA and IUDI members. But that doesn't mean I don't thank them, because we don't want to take anybody's time and contribution for granted. And I know what it means to offer your time or your efforts to be around for an event like this. So Harshad sir was involved in, conceiving and ideating the entire theme, and, he guided and contributed his ideas, his interesting jokes also. So thank you, sir. Ramesh Dangle, I have been knowing him since inception of IUDI Mumbai, and he brings in a lot of value through his experience. At the same time, he has constantly supported IUDI financially. That's another thing we don't want to take for granted, and it takes an extra effort to bring in the required support. So, sir, thank you so much. Besides that, Smita ma'am, Subhagya, I know you for the first time. Rahul, thank you so much for being around, contributing. All the IUDI members, ISOLA members, thank you all for being here. All the students, thank you for being here. The hall is still full, and that says that not just the students, but we all are also taking a value back with us. Samir, special thanks to you for initiating everything. And, I know what it takes to set up an event or get an event done, going behind everybody and talking and doing all the required work. So as I said, we don't want to take anything for granted and not acknowledged. One of the things I want to say is ISOLA and IUDI both are member-driven organizations. And both the organizations can only move ahead with velocity, spreading value when the members come and contribute, which is despite your, managing your professional responsibilities, your personal fronts, all of that. And that's why we really need to mention this here. The last piece, ma'am has said about ISOLA. I will just say one or two lines about IUDI, Institute of Urban Designers India. We were formulated in 2007. We have about 700 plus members in India, and we are reached in about 12 to 13 different cities with our chapters and centers. And we have a national conference coming up in March, on the 7th and 8th of March in Kolkata. So the East zone of IUDI is hosting this conference. I invite all of you to consider coming to conference in Kolkata. Register yourselves. natcon@iudi.in is the site which you can access. It's there, a lot of flyers are floating all over. You'll be able to find it. If you don't find it, ask some of us if you have our numbers. And be around, and that will be a great support for us for the conference. So, thank you to the faculty. I said in the beginning, thank you to the VESCO faculty and entire family, whoever has been around. So let's take this ahead, ma'am, and we'll meet often in future through such events. Thank you.
Make a last. Important point which Madam did, that these things move with the membership, and this is what VESCO realizes, and we encourage this to all students of Bachelors of Architecture, Diploma in Interior, Masters in Urban Design, and Masters in Landscape. So VESCO offers this free of cost to students during their final year. So final year architecture students get a free student membership when they get graduated. So it's a small reminder to them that be a member of the professional body and lead it into the future. Similarly, this is the first batch. We are taking this leadership here further. That Masters in Landscape also get the student membership first year by the college, and we motivate them profession. Same in Masters in Landscape, they become a student members of ISOLA. And also diploma in interior students, they get, I think that's triple ID membership. That's how VESCO is trying to promote becoming members of this professional body and reach out to the profession for a larger good of the society. Thank you. Also, we are celebrating 100th year of our founding member, Sri Harshu Advani ji, and we are calling that event a Advani Sentinel celebration. It's starting from 22nd of February, 1 week long celebrations. It's on all our social media of VES, right from marathon to health checkups to health drives to VES talks from various people across India would be there. Plus there are cultural show, plus food festival. So we would be taking this 1 week celebrating his centennial year and across the full year. VESCO also has initiated 2 years back Harshu Advani Memorial Lecture Series on the theme of acoustics, and last 2 years we had successful events on this HAML, Harshu Advani Memorial. This is the third Harshu Advani Memorial Lecture Series we would be doing. The first one was by Dr. Aroma Revi from IIHS. The second one was by Vidyadhar Phatak sir, who spoke on his book, which he did. This memorial lecture series, third one, on 28th of February. We are, in memory, we are having Narendra Dangle and Ramnath Jha, who was from he's an IAS officer who was part of the Mumbai DP development plan. So please join. I invite you all for the entire 1 week program for various activities. Students, mandatory registration for marathon. That's the instruction from the management. And please join the health checkups. There are lecture series, also health camps. There are blood donation. So Fortis and few other hospitals are coming across. For almost, we have put a target of 1,000 blood donations to the government. That's how Harshuji was known for service to society. I hope you imbibe values what we learned from how as a member to the simplest level. I remember one small thing which touched me, what my seniors talked to me or trustees spoke to me about Harshuji. He made sure that his room, one small room which he lived and slept on a floor, he said, no fans will be in my room till my entire schools will have all fans for my kids. That's the dedication he had and commitment for the society. Today, every kid of Chimbur, every person who associated knows him, knows what he did for the society. This is a value which you will have to take it back into from this college, and society should know you as that you are a past graduate from Vivekananda and you own these values and you will give back to the society. I hope each student and each member contributes to the society upliftment. Thank you. Thank you. All the guests, faculty, please join for some snacks in the adjacent room. All students, there are some refreshments in 603.